Ah! So I'd say our timing is definitely off. It's sparking well after top dead center, not enough to run the car. Now, why is that? Does this have a gear like my old Bronco? We could pull the distributor out and look, or we could just turn the distributor and see if it starts. If the gear is in a stable position, which it seems to be, it doesn't seem to be jumping around or anything. We had a constant 1342. It's firing on the same part of the waveform each time, so maybe if we just turn the distributor, we can get this car to run. I'm going to try that. Okay, I have this loosened up, and I'm going to turn this to advance it, and hopefully it'll run there. Well, that certainly started better than it has been before. Maybe not. Did the distributor turn? Could you guys see the distributor turn when I went to start that? Or is it still in the same spot? I turned that thing a long way, so I don't think it seems to me it's in the same spot it was before. Let me try again. Well, it wants to start. Oh crap, I'm being a bonehead. I turned the fuel off on here. Let me turn the fuel back on. Oops, thing's leaking a little bit here. Turn the fuel back on, and I need to plug in the cold start injector also. Now let's see what happens. Well, that was easy enough. Let's shut this thing back off and let's look at our waveform with the timing adjusted like this. And let's see where it falls on those peaks with it set right now where it'll run. Is it going to die? Nope. Kept running. Okay, I'm going to shut the... Is it going to die? Nope. I'm going to shut the fuel off here. I'm also going to disconnect the cold start injector because I don't want the complications of it firing just a little bit when it first starts. Let's get back on our scope. And now with the timing set in an area where it will run, let's see where our waveforms fall. Close this window. Now, I might want to start a little bit from residual fuel. Okay, we'll pause it. Scroll back. And if you look at these waveforms, I'll zoom in here. You can see they're maybe not perfect, but they're much closer to top dead center. The inductive spike is much closer to top dead center. So 1, 3, 4, 2, 1, 3, 4, 2, 1, 3, 4, 2. I don't know what the second spike is. It's obviously picking up spark from one of the other cylinders, but obviously with us adjusting the timing, we moved the timing from well after top dead center closer to top dead center, so the car will run. I think what I have to, does our timing just need adjusted, or is there some type of problem like my Bronco had with the distributor gear turned? We kind of need to know that. If the timing gear has turned or something along those lines, it could turn farther, and then our customer could be break down again. Their car could fail to start again. So we need to know why the timing has changed like this. The bolt definitely wasn't loose. I had a heck of a time getting it loose because of the position it's in, and I don't really have a distributor wrench. I used to have one, but once again I can't find it along with my spark tester. So I need to get a new distributor wrench, but I probably should just make one, bend a wrench. I have the extra wrenches, so I need to find out why. Here's what I didn't take into account. This distributor is driven off a shaft. That shaft comes across like this and is driven off a pulley that's right here. And I didn't look to see if that pulley was in time. We're going to have to pull, we did check that the cam and crank were in time. We're going to have to pull this lower pulley apart in order to see whether that pulley is in time. So I guess that's going to be our next step. Now I probably should have set this to top dead center while I still had the pulley on there, but I can set it to top dead center based on the cam up top. Just as before, we're trying to get the paint mark lined up with the valve cover right here. Okay, here is timing belt information, and you can see here it's showing the cam gear, and the mark on the pulley needs to line up with the valve cover gasket. And here is the crank pulley and the intermediate shaft gear, and the mark on the intermediate shaft gear needs to line up with the mark on the crankshaft pulley when you're at top dead center. And it's going to be real hard for me to show you that. I've already verified that the crankshaft is at top dead center when the cam is in alignment. I put a yellow paint dot on the timing mark right there, and then I put a yellow paint dot on the timing mark on the pulley. Now this is going to be real hard to show you because this is in the back and on the top, but I'm going to transfer a mark right there. So this pulley will only go on one way because the bolts are not in a perfect square, so it will only go on one way. As you can see, when I put that on there, that timing mark is way up here. Might as well put a mark there to show you. It's way up here. And when I pull this off, the timing mark is down here. So this is out of time, and that's what's caused it. So how on earth did that jump time? The cam and crank are still in time, but that has jumped time. You know, I have a little bit of trouble believing it, but here I am looking at it right in the face. So I'm going to call this customer and give them a recommendation of doing a timing belt on this car, and I guess we'll just go from there. Okay, as I'm looking this over, I'm seeing some oil right there, and as you follow it up, it goes up to about right there, and there's the mount, and it continues up there, and I'll show you from the top. From the top here, you can kind of see there might be slight evidence of oil underneath the cam seal, but the cam seal gets replaced with a timing belt automatically here at our shop. But underneath there, that seems to be quite wet over here, all the way over to here, and it's basically the same on the back. So I think we're going to need to recommend a valve cover gasket to this customer, and that'll keep any oil that's coming from there off the timing belt, and we may need to replace that intermediate shaft seal there also. The crank seal, I'm 100% confident it's not leaking. Maybe with the mileage we should change it anyway. We will make those decisions and call the customer. Obviously he's probably going to get a water pump. The water pump is not leaking or anything, and it isn't driven off the timing belt, but in order to change it you have to remove this intermediate shaft pulley. So if the water pump started leaking later, it would be something where the timing belt work would have to be done again. So we usually try and save the customer money by changing just the water pump itself, but sometimes these bolts like to break. We try and take steps to where they don't break, but you can't always prevent the bolts from breaking. But if these bolts break, you generally want to change this whole housing, or at least you'll have to remove this housing in order to extract those bolts. But this housing comes with some of the water pumps that you can buy, so it's not incredibly expensive. It's just a little bit of extra cost from the part. We're going to try and do just the water pump itself without the housing. So that's going to be our recommendation at that point. I think that should get this car back on the road. This is not a daily driven vehicle. It's kind of like a Sunday driver for this customer, but we'll get him back on the road and running. Okay, we are doing the timing belt on this Rabbit. We have the old timing belt off, and I'm not really seeing any specific damage that made it jump time on that one pulley. Don't understand it at this point. Nothing really wrong with it. But here's the new belt. We got a couple new cam seals and a tensioner. The shaft that drives the oil pump and the distributor has this housing on it here that holds the seal. Make sure you get that O-ring right there, or else you'll be stuck like we were. And then you want to replace that seal. We are of course going to replace the cam seal, and we've already put the water pump in it. We did have one of the bolts break off, but they had some protruding, and we were able to weld a nut to it and heat the housing that it sits in, and we were able to extract that bolt. So you might want to pay attention to that if you're replacing this water pump. Water pump is available with the whole housing, so you can buy that if your bolts break off. But that's a lot more work to change it, that housing being back there. I guess it ain't a lot of work on these, but it's more work. So at this point we don't know why the timing belt jumped time on this shaft, why this had the pulley on it. We did spin it and it spun completely freely, and so I'm not exactly sure why it jumped time, but we'll keep going on it and get this thing running. We have finished up the timing belt work on this car. Put a timing belt on it, and we put a water pump on there. We were not able to set the timing. We just set the timing where it would run. Because I don't have a timing light, I am actually going to go down to a neighboring shop and borrow one from a guy down the street, and we'll get the timing set. And here we are. It's a wonderful Syntec Harbor Freight timing light. That's better than nothing. The spec on this is 6 degrees before top dead center, so that would be about 5, and I'll set that to 6. Okay, I've been trying for a while to show this on camera, but it doesn't really come across very well. But you can at least see the white mark there, even though the RPM of the engine kind of interferes with the frame rate of the camera. But let me zoom out here for a second, show you what I'm doing. I'm going to grab this and turn it, and that way you can see the line moving, and that'll kind of demonstrate where the line is. You can see the line there just a bit. And as I move this dial, you can see the line moves towards the bottom end of the screen and towards the upper end of the screen. And I'm going to set that to 6. And I'm going to adjust the distributor accordingly. And then we can ship this car back to the customer. Thanks for watching my video on this Rabbit. If you enjoyed this video, be sure and click the like button. If you learned anything from this video or it helped you fix your car and you'd like to donate to the continued production of these videos, find the donate icon on my website at www.kansascitytdi.com. And if you want to see some more of my videos, there's one right there. Click that one right there, and don't forget to subscribe.